Hello, and welcome to Empowered the Podcast. My name is Linda, and I am your host. I am an empowerment coach, a spirit junkie, a realtor, a proud mom, and a dog mom. I'm also an animal advocate, a child advocate, and someone that overcame a lot of challenges and trauma in my life. This podcast is packed with powerful content, inspiring conversations with amazing guests who will help you heal, grow, and evolve into a better version of you so you can attract in your best and most empowered life. I don't know about you, but I'm not here for mediocrity. I'm here for an abundant, blessed life. Life does not have to be so hard. That is an old program. We can do less and attract more, and I know this to be true. I love bringing you this powerful information. I hope you enjoy, learn, and grow. Have a beautiful day. Hello, and welcome back to Empowered the Podcast. I'm your host, Linda Brand, and I'm so excited, as always, because I love all of my guests. And today's guest is exceptionally fabulous. Her name is Elizabeth Stickney, and she is a spiritual counselor and meditation teacher. And she's been teaching meditation for 23 years. She's been a healer for so long, over 17 years. She's educated with two psychology degrees, a master's and bachelor's, and she's trained in hand parenting by connection. She's trauma informed. She has so much knowledge. Rain also was a body worker for 2 decades. She developed her own approach called Emotional Integrative Bodywork. She has a podcast, Every Moment is Sacred. She's originally from San Francisco, and now she's in Vermont. She's there with her son and her life partner and their magical black bunny. So I'm super excited for this conversation. Welcome, Rain, to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Linda. What a sweet introduction. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Me too. I'm sorry it took so long for us to get together, but I just listened to one of the interviews you had with your son about your son and his health and how you handled everything. And I was like, this is so good. But as I was reading about you today, I saw she's been teaching meditation for 23 years. She's a healer. You are a healer. And I love bringing people like you to my audience because we're all dealing with something. And that was one of my first questions was going to be, how many of us have trauma, little t or big T trauma? I mean, it's pretty much everybody, right?
Yeah.
Tell
We're
us.
all healing. It's so true that we're all, if we embrace it in this way, we're all healing. And it's just right. It's good that we can heal.
Yeah. And I've been on the journey since 11 and 12. Well, yes, basically that was the beginning where I had a debilitating illness, and it was the beginning of my spiritual awakening also. So you're also super spiritual too, right?
I am. Yes, it's a way of life for me.
Yeah, I love your soft-spoken voice, and I love your name. I know I said that before, Rain. It's such a beautiful name. I have an interview later today with a Sky, and I love her name also. Tell us a little bit about your background in the beginning.
Okay. So,
did you always know you wanted to do psychology, or how did you?
Yes, it depends on how far back we go. So I became interested in psychology when I was a young teenager, and that happened by way of circumstance. I moved around a lot as a child, and so I went to many different schools. And one of my 3 junior high schools offered a psychology class, and I took it, and I was very skilled at it and I enjoyed it. And I also found it very interesting that there are ways to look at our human experiences and understand them. And my family is a very spiritual family, but not necessarily a psychologically oriented family. And so that moment as a young teenager, I really got to pair spirituality and psychology in a way that I didn't actually know existed prior.
Oh, I love that. So you were a teenager when you kind of found your calling, if you will. Is that correct? Yeah.
Well, yes, and I didn't know it was my calling. I was also a teenager.
Yeah. An
Enjoyed
interest.
running, and I, ran track and cross country and did all the teenage things, but there was an interest there in the psychology realm, um and I found that some of the things that I understood about life internally showed up in psychological theory. And that was
Mhm.
interesting to me, that I suddenly didn't feel so alone in my perception of the world, that there are these great thinkers who have already thought these thoughts. And then
Mm.
it's something for me to learn about.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And then about 23 years ago, you started a meditation practice or teaching meditation. Tell us a little bit about that. When did you personally start meditating and
Yes,
finding that?
I've meditated all of my life. And so I don't remember a time not meditating.
Wow.
And if we consider the current research of how meditation affects the cells of the body and other beings in our world, my parents were meditators. And so my mom was meditating when I was inside of her. And so my cells literally don't know anything other than meditation. It's just what I'm made up of.
Oh my
And I've had many
gosh.
teachers along the way, but on my 26th birthday, I decided to start teaching, and I haven't stopped.
Oh my goodness. So good. So share with the audience the benefits of meditating, which I know you just shared about the cells and I know about the Heal documentary. It was powerful and amazing. And we're also in the Kathy Heller community, and she teaches that and shares all the value around cancers being cured and all these different powerful things. But if you want to share a little bit of what you tell your students around meditating and then your personal meditation practice would be amazing to hear.
I love meditating and I love sharing meditation. And there are so many different ways to practice and so many different avenues into the meditative state, as well as goals that people are after or outcomes that they want for themselves. And what I have learned to do over the course of my life so far is to tap into the relaxation response, which is a natural state in the human body. It's a physiological state. It's science. It's just how we work. We have this wonderful gift of a parasympathetic nervous system. And when that part of our nervous system is turned on, a natural healing and rejuvenation occurs in the physical form and beyond. So, including the mind and the heart and the spirit. So, when I teach meditation, the main benefit is, are we embodied? Are we relaxed in our bodies? Are we having an agitated state in our bodies? Just what's happening with our bodies? Then we move up to the mind and we begin to understand that there are thoughts in the mind. And from my perspective, there's no need to control them, although there are meditative practices that do control thoughts. My interest is more about, what are the thoughts there? And do we have the courage to witness? And secondly, what is the landscape within which the thoughts are occurring? So there's two parts of the mind that really interest me in meditation. And one is the landscape of mind, and the other is what's occurring in the mind, the thoughts that come and go. So we work with
Okay.
that for the benefit of clear thinking, for the
Mm.
benefit of a relaxed mind.
Okay. When you say landscape, elaborate on that.
Yes, that's the attitude of mind. That's beginning to consider when I have a repetitive thought about, oh, I could never do this. Oh, I could never do this, or whatever the thought might be. Am I holding that thought with loving curiosity? Am I angry at myself for having that thought? Am I feeling sad and holding that thought with a lot of grief and loss and sadness? But there's often some sort of a landscape within which that thought is occurring.
Right.
And actually, that attitude of mind is easier to change than the actual thought that's coming and going.
Mm. Okay. And I love that. So when you talk about the meditation, the parasympathetic and the natural healing, is it a certain time of day? Is it like in the morning or evening with the theta brain? Is that when we most benefit from it? Can you talk on that? I know that in the morning or in the evening, we have the theta state where the brain
Mhm.
is more,
Often, yes.
yeah, yeah, where we can
Mhm.
actually, it's just more beneficial because we're more, it's like the child from 0 to 7, right? They're in the theta state. Is that correct? Like the mind is more, is it malleable? I can't even think of the word.
Yeah, it can be that way. And there are a lot of theories about 0 to 7. And I also get very interested in the individual experience, which is why I teach meditation in a form that is more of a call and response. So if you and I were meditating together, I might say, "What would you like to meditate on?" And you might say something, and I might say something back, and then we'll co-create something together.
Mm,
Because as brilliant as psychology is, and any theory in any discipline, we're all unique and
yeah.
we all hold our story in a very special way that's unique to who we are in this moment in time. And that's much more interesting to me than all of the great thinkers who have come before this moment.
Yeah. I love that you just mentioned our story because I wanted to ask you, we all have these stories that we tell and define ourselves with, or the limiting beliefs and the different things. And what I'd like to know is, do you have other things that you do with your clients beyond meditation to help reprogram the subconscious or change these limiting beliefs? Do you use affirmations or anything else, or is it all meditation?
When I work with clients individually, we do a variety of things. I use the expressive arts. I work with couples and I use the Gottman Method with couples.
Can you
Use
share what that is? Because I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. The Gottman.
Yes. So the Gottman Method is an evidence based couples therapy approach. And it is brilliant. And there are many other couples therapy approaches that are also brilliant. But something that I like about Gottman is that it breaks apart communication and it breaks apart how to fight well. And it also breaks apart what kind of a foundation do we need in relationship to have our dreams come true in
Mm,
couplehood. And so we work through all these layers so that people have enough to enjoy the trust and the commitment that they're after, if that's what they're after. Usually, trust, everybody wants some form of that. Commitment, that's sometimes more of a conversation. But
yeah.
the safety really needs to be in place to have a happy, long couplehood.
How much of your business and your clients are couples?
Good question. It shifts and changes all of the time, but it's pretty steady. When did I start working with couples? Probably around 2008 or so.
Oh my goodness,
2000.
incredible. So, what are your offerings? I know that you do one-on-one meditation. You have the podcast, Sacred. Tell us about your podcast. Also, Every Moment is Sacred. Is there guests or is it just you and your solo episodes or both? Or
Mhm. Yes, there are guests and there are solo episodes, and my podcast, as well as my private healing and meditation practice, are all with the goal of supporting people as whole beings. And I see us as body, mind, heart, spirit. And the podcast has healing conversations as well as meditations, as well as poetry. In my healing practice, I see individuals as well as couples, and sometimes I'm asked to do sacred events like marriages or unions or
oh
different
wow.
moments of honor. Um,
Yeah, I want to hear about the poetry. But what I learned recently, and I started tapping a little bit, and now I'm exploring breath work a little bit, which to me seems a lot like meditation, the breathing. But this whole body, mind, spirit, heart, like it's all so connected. And I feel like we can say the affirmations and work to reprogram the mind because I'm also in an NLP class. And it's all so connected. We still have to deal with the physical body. And that's what you have all this, you just have everything. That's why I was so excited to talk with you. And I'm reading
Mm.
everything. You have all the tools in your tool. You know all of it. So do you work with EFT, emotional freedom? Do you do any tapping or what do you think of it? Or you're just like, whatever works for you to help? Yeah.
Yes, I know a little bit about EFT. I'm not trained in it, so it's not something that I offer professionally. I do think that there are so many wonderful offerings in life that hopefully people really are drawn to what works for them. And the people who are drawn to me are usually on a spiritual path or they're not, but something in them might light up during our work together.
Mm-hmm.
And my job as I take it is really to meet people where they are, exactly where they are. And so everything I do rests in presence, number one. And
Mm,
if the
yeah.
person and I or the people and I can meet in presence, then likely healing will happen just by the grace of how life works.
Mm, yeah. And I love that every moment is sacred as your name of your podcast because it's pretty much talking about that being in the present, right? This moment.
Yes.
Like this is all we have. I started learning about spirituality not that long ago, as far as 11 and 12 was the beginning, but I love it so much. I call myself a spirit junkie because I'm
Mhm.
so fascinated with it and I need it so much and I just love it. So being in the present, so I teach my audience and my clients that all we have is right now. The past is completely gone. The future isn't here. So let's be present. And that's where our power is. Do you want to share anything more on that or speak on that?
Well, yes. And I love talking with you, Linda,
Thank you.
because you are so powerful and I feel your power coming through. And I have a lot of curiosity about you too. So in this present moment, I'm feeling your power. And that is one of the beautiful graces of life and connection and having these conversations through podcasting or what have you, is we get to be in this powerful moment together and find out what happens.
Yeah.
And living with that much unknown is often very scary for people. Maybe not you, but for people in general. And I have my own moments of fear as well. And part of what I offer to the world is yes, let's be so alive that we don't actually know what happens and be willing to allow it to unfold and offer our influence of positive thought to support more and more good unfolding all of the time.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for that. But it's a conscious decision all the time, each day for me. And I know I appear super courageous, and I am courageous. I've done a lot of courageous things in my life, and I'm blessed to be alive for what my trauma and past have. I'm very grateful to be alive, but I am human, so I'll have the fears and all that. But so what you said is absolutely true. It's just because of the programs, it's hard to live in the present all the time when we have the 3D with the money and all the things that we have to deal with here on Earth. But I want to hear who your spiritual, like Gabby Bernstein. I always talk about her in every episode practically. She's one of my huge teachers. I love her. And I see you shaking your head. So you are you like her too, I assume, or no? Yeah, you
I
follow.
know who she is, and
Oh,
I've come across her a bit. So I have the resonance of being able to conjure her up in my mind and
okay. Yeah.
appreciate her energy that she offers.
Oh, oh my goodness. I have all her books, all her cards. She's a light in the world. But I don't want to forget the poetry question. And I also want to see how we can help people today out there to not be so afraid and not be living that program of fear. And I know that I mentioned program a lot to anyone who's listening, going, what is she talking about? But I'm talking about the subconscious, the beliefs that we take on, the energies we take on from a young age. It's programmed in, almost like we're computers. We're walking around and we have these beliefs, like you were talking about earlier. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. These stories. And so I know with meditation, it helps me so much get out of that, get away from those. And yeah, anything you want to share on all that or respond to?
Yes. Is there a specific question or something that you
Um,
would to hear about?
yeah, I just want to see how we can help people. What can they do today to be more faithful and less fearful about the future and choose love over fear kind of thing?
Yeah. One technique I really love is to allow. And sometimes when fear is present, there can be a tendency to push away the fear or overcome the fear or combat the fear with love or something. Affirmations. I mentioned affirmations earlier. It could be anything. And sometimes what's really needed is to allow the fear,
Sit with it.
sit with it. And physiologically, what could be happening is there could be body armoring in the physical form that is stored as tense energy that actually needs to move out. That the more we overlay that body armored fear, the more stuck it's going to become. And when
Mm,
we allow, we might shake, we might tremor, we might cry, we might have memories, we might have flashbacks. So it's good to do this in a safe setting with someone who is uh, trusted and who trusts you, or alone where you feel safe. But the idea is to allow what has been stored so it no longer needs to be held. And also, so the person gets to find out, what is this? What would happen if this were actually released and honored? We
mm,
don't often get scared for no reason. There's often a very good reason why we feel the way we feel. And that can be honored and allowed. And through the metabolization of feeling and emotion and sensation, it actually can be released. And then we're free. Then
mm.
we're free. There's no need to play with it anymore. We
Yeah.
already know, like, I can do that. I can move through my fear.
So is that when you do that, and if someone is free, does it say, is that like it doesn't come back? It's still going to come back on occasion, correct? Or is it going?
It's yeah. So if we think about the spectrum of human emotion, it's natural to feel afraid. We want to feel afraid. Sometimes fear will save us because if we're crossing a street and we accidentally didn't look or we didn't see a car that was coming and we see that car coming and we're afraid and we jump back to the sidewalk, that's the kind of fear that's very helpful. We
Yeah,
don't want to limit ourselves from not feeling fear, in my opinion.
right.
But what we do want to do is to know that it's okay to feel whatever we're feeling so that
Hmm.
we get that emotional information and we can use it wisely.
I love that. I think you've got all the tools and you're so experienced, and I think you can definitely help a lot of people, including myself, as I listen to you speak. It's a journey. It's a journey, Rain. I think it's a journey. We are here to heal, grow, evolve, help others, love ourselves. There's so many things. What do you believe as to why we're here?
Yes, I love that. Heal, grow, help ourselves, help others.
Yeah, heal, grow, evolve, love ourselves, help others.
Yes,
You
yes, yes.
agree? That's why we're here? Or is there anything else you believe?
I,
Why?
I, I only simplify it from there. So, what you're saying, Linda, I agree with. And I simplify it all the way down to love. We're here to
Mm.
love. We're here to connect. We're here to see and be seen. Whether or not we have sight in our eyes, there is a resonance that we can feel on this earth. We're here to be alive, and that life moves through us in so many different ways. But if I were to sum it up into one word, I would say love.
Oh, I love that too. And yeah, and I also say often that we're here for joy because we are not here to be miserable or struggle or suffer. That I know. I know that to be true. And I always think of higher power, source, spirit, God, whatever you believe or choose to say or believe is they want it. It's like you want your children happy. You want your children successful. And so that's the thing. It's like you want the most for your kids. So abundance and blessings and love and light and goodness. So yeah, I feel we're definitely here for joy. And I love that you had parents that meditated and you were born into meditation. That's so beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Share with us some of your spiritual coaches or your book favorite books and authors, coaches, mentors that helped you or help you. Do you still keep reading and learning? I assume so because you're a
Mhm.
brilliant woman.
Thank you. Thank you. I do keep reading and learning and taking courses and being trained. There's an evolution of knowledge, and I am a lifelong learner for sure. I don't know that it ever ends.
Right.
Some some of my favorite teachers are um, teachers that people may not have heard of. I don't know, but they're not necessarily the teachers that I am the closest with are not necessarily the biggest names. Now, I do
Mhm.
sometimes share about my connection with Ram Dass because
Oh,
he his he and my family and myself, we all had a connection when I was born and when I was a baby. I met him and he blessed me. And then when I was an adult, I went back to be in satsang with him because he lived in the same county that I lived in. And so I have a connection with Ram Dass. He's a big name. He's a
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. He was born Jewish, right?
Yes. And I love him very much. And yes, he has a very eclectic background.
Yeah. It's so
And
interesting. I
I
like him
tend
too.
I tend to really like teachers who are very human, who have really embodied their humanness. And Ram Dass is one of those souls who through various experiences, he has said, hey, look, we're all in it together, folks. And some days, like when he had his stroke, he's like, I was just looking at the pipes in the hospital. I was on a gurney, I was lying down, and I was looking at the ceiling, and all I was doing was looking at the pipes. And that's a great metaphor. It's true. And it's a great metaphor because some days any of us are just looking at the pipes. It's just a human experience happening. And
Yeah.
that's enough. That's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And then
True.
some other teachers that I really love are Radha, who is currently my main spiritual teacher, and she teaches a very traditional form of ancient Indian spirituality, Advaita Vedanta, Eastern Indian,
Mm.
and she teaches the texts in Sanskrit, and
Mm.
it's a very particular practice with
Mm.
her, and I find it to be so interesting and helpful for the mind to truly see what's going on here and what is the person and the soul. What is the world? What is God? And what do we all have to do with each other? And the way she unfolds that teaching has been very helpful for me in my growth.
How do you spell her name?
Radha.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for sharing that. Did you do you keep a special diet? Are you vegan or vegetarian?
My diet changes over time depending on what my body needs. and I am not currently vegetarian or vegan. I am gluten-free right now, and I tend to eat very low sugar, and I really thrive on protein and veggies.
Good for you. I love the low sugar and gluten free. I find I have some issues where energetically and spiritually with eating animals. It's very interesting. Tell us about your morning practice or your personal spiritual practices if you're willing to share on a daily basis, and also the poetry that you mentioned on the podcast. I don't want to forget about that because I think it's so unique and special, and I want to hear, is this like poetry that you personally write or you're
Yes, there is one poem on my podcast that I wrote. Most of the poetry on my show is my mother's poetry because I'm in the process of publishing her work. She has passed away, and when she was dying, she didn't feel done with her life. And so I promised to finish some projects for her. And one of
oh,
them was to publish her poetry.
how
So that
beautiful.
is there. Yeah, she's a very creative soul.
Wow. Nice.
But the poetry is sacred, and one of the morning practices that I love the most is I always wake up with gratitude, and I don't let myself get out of my bed without feeling grateful for something. And if I
Mm.
don't feel grateful, I go back to sleep.
Oh, I love that. I have been practicing gratitude for over 11 years, and I love that. It's such a gigantic way to shift everything and to just get into the right frame of mind. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Do you do meditate every morning?
I do meditate every day. And because I am a mom of a 10-year-old, my mornings are often dependent on what is happening in the house.
Yeah.
And so the kinds of morning practices that I feel in control of are not all the practices I do throughout the day. And to connect me with my teacher, Radha, I do chant in Sanskrit every day. That's something that's very helpful for me and for my mind. And another teacher I wanted to mention who has recently passed away is George Bertelstein, who was a teacher in the Native American tradition, specifically Lakota and Peruvian traditions, joining them together in an organization called Medicine Path, which was an official Native American church. It still exists, but he has recently exited this earth plane.
Oh, wow. Thank you for adding that. I meant to say, is there anyone else you wanted to bring up? Medicine Path. So is it similar to like the Four Agreements author? Is it that kind of teachings?
I imagine he would be very much in alignment with the Four Agreements, and in fact, I think that it has come up in his ceremonies, in George's ceremonies. George is a man of prayer, and so his instruction around prayer is so beautiful. It's really based on three points of action. One, being grateful, as you and I were just aligning with. Two, being honest about what the struggle is. I'm grateful and I'm having a struggle. And then three, asking for help. I'm grateful, I'm having a struggle, and this is what I would like help with. And in
Mm.
that form of prayer and sitting with him for years in ceremony with people coming in and out of the ceremony space praying for their lives, I learned so much about humanity and about what's really in our hearts as people. What do we pray for? It's a blessing to be able to hear so many prayers.
Ah, that's so beautiful. I love that too. Thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. So you personally, George Bertelstein, you personally met and prayed with.
Oh, yes. 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 And the community that he has gathered, we are all family. And it's, it's a beautiful gift when a teacher is able to hold a community as sacred family. And the
Mhm.
people within that body of prayer, in this case, we really love each other. We really
Mhm.
love each other.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love that. So, since Valentine's Day is this week, I don't know when this episode will come out, and I did just drop the Rachel Medorsky episode, yep, today. Do you know Rachel?
Yes, in fact, Linda, I listened to your episode with Rachel, and it's a
Oh,
wonderful
thank
episode.
you.
You guys did a great job. She's such a fabulous guest, and your connection with her is beautiful.
Thank you, Rain. Ah, thank you. I didn't get to ask her morning practice, and I know I heard it on a different show where she wakes up with no alarm and she's, has a very like long, beautiful morning practice. But thank you for listening. I was bringing it up to ask you what your belief around self-love is, because I think it's this week being the Valentine's, and I just wanted your personal opinion on loving ourselves.
It's so important. And I've been in a number of spiritual debates with friends and spiritual friends about self love versus loving other people or loving the world and compassion that goes outward. And I am a stickler for 160-degree love. So, yes, let's love everybody, including ourselves. And let's love ourselves, including everybody, to go back and forth so that it's not about direction. It's about love.
It's
And we're
really
included in that love.
Yeah, and I mean, and if you believe we're all connected and we're all one and we're a wave in the ocean, like Kathy Heller loves to use as an analogy, and it's a great one, or a ray of the sun, we're all connected, that when I'm loving me, I'm loving you. When I'm
Mhm.
loving you, I'm loving me. But the personal, like the self love, I think it is gigantic in living your best life personally. And it's it's again a journey, and it's again a practice and all of that. So I love this. I want to respect your time. So is there anything else you want to share with the audience? And then of course where they can find you. And we'll put all your links, of course, in the show notes.
Thank you. I am also curious about you, Linda. And you mentioned in the beginning that you had an illness at some point, and I really love speaking directly to the person that I'm with. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering what was that for you in a nutshell? What
In a
happened?
nutshell, in 2011, I was misdiagnosed by three different doctors, all telling me I had fibromyalgia, and I knew intuitively that was not it. And I took myself to a rheumatologist. He tried saying the same thing, and I was diagnosed eventually with Lyme disease.
Oh,
And I fought it through every single modality, spiritual, herbal, medicinal, everything I could do. I started lighting Shabbat candles every Friday night,
mhm.
prayer, cut alcohol for 2.5 years, all these things. And in 4 years later, I was at a workshop, and this guy said to me, I broke down crying, and this was one of my first personal development workshops. And he's like, "Oh, you identify yourself with Lyme disease or your illness," or whatever he said. And a light bulb went off, and I went back to my MD alternative doctor at the time, and she drew blood, and it was just there was one inflammatory factor, which could have been yeast or anything, but there was negative for Lyme. And so,
Whoa.
but I was dealing with, I mean, I was very sick in 11 and 12. And it's invisible, just like fibromyalgia or any of the other things. So I had, my son and his father, you know, I shouldn't say, but like, laughing at me.
So sorry. I'm right here.
I haven't been sleeping great lately. I don't know why, but anyway, no, it was a struggle for for years. And I did nothing but take care of myself and take care of my son. And I was grateful to have his father to take him to hockey when I didn't have the energy.
Mhm, mhm,
So yeah, it was the and financially it took me down. That's a whole other story. But the reality is there was a blessing, an underlying blessing that I learned how to take care of myself. That was the beginning. It took me to get that sick and, I was pretty toxic anyway, but to wake up and start, it was the beginning. I've been on this journey of long, long time, but that was the beginning. So that's a beautiful thing too.
mhm. I'm so glad you learned to take care of yourself and that you
Thank you.
chose to take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I know it's like we're in these entrepreneurial places and it's easy to quit. It really is. But I think about how I'm here to help these people that need it. I need to give people hope and inspire others. And that's another thing about, I have trauma from way before that, but in my young adult life or teenage years, but and it even began sooner. I'm writing a memoir, but the point
Mm,
is it's a journey and a healing journey, and you're a healer, and I love that you're here sharing, and thank you for asking that question. I didn't expect any of that, but yeah, I mean that I did. I learned to take care of myself because I was abusing my body before,
mhm.
and because I didn't have great parenting. It's if you listen to any of my solo, episodes on other people's shows, you'll hear about it. But anyway,
Mm.
back to you. Thank you for asking about me. I love
Thank you.
everything about you, your gentleness, your calm, your beautiful soul. And, after reading about your education and the years that you've been practicing, it's just a wonder. Now I know why. I am drawn to you actually because you're very, very healing. Just your energy is just beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Linda. And your energy is so beautiful too. We get
Thank
to
you.
be here together in beauty.
Yes, absolutely. And you're just so naturally beautiful, which I love too.
Mm.
But
Thank you.
yeah. So where can people find you? The podcast is Every Moment is Sacred.
Yes, and it can be found everywhere. And there are over 110 episodes, and those are a mixture of solo episodes, meditations, and conversations. And I'm continuing. So
Nice.
there's tons to enjoy. And I have a couple of meditations on Insight Timer, which is a free meditation app. And it's kind of nice because then there's not the podcasting preamble. People can just listen to the meditation. I welcome everybody to do that. You just look for my name, Rain Elizabeth Stickney. And then everything else can be found on my website, rainelizabeth.org. For example, there are free meditations every month, and everybody's welcome to come to a free meditation. Those are held online, and there's a private meditation group. There's also a gratitude practice and tons of other offerings. It's just wonderful to connect in the land of healing.
Ah, so good. Yes. And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about your son and all of that, but I know that they can probably hear about it on your show, or we could perhaps have another one. But you basically, do you want to just your son had some health problems and you intuitively took care of all of it, right? Naturally and intuitively.
Yes, well, it is an ongoing journey. So there was a moment in time that our decision to move to Vermont was very healing for all of us, including my son. And and his health journey continues. He has a genetic difference, and that genetic difference is the root cause for many things.
Okay.
And um, the longer story, you're right, can be heard on other shows and will evolve over time. But the good news is that he's 10, he's alive and well. He
Yes.
knows himself, and he is one of the most empathetic people I've ever come across.
Of course. It came from you. Yeah. My son too is his soul and his heart is so beautiful. So I'm blessed for that as well. Thank you for being here. You're amazing and you're doing amazing to help heal the planet, basically.
Thank you. I think we all play our part. So thank you so much for spreading your light and empowering people and sharing your empowerment with the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Empowered the Podcast. It means so much to me that you are here, that you're listening. I hope you learned something. I hope you found value. If you enjoyed it, please share with someone you think would benefit from it. If you'd like to connect with me, feel free to contact me on Instagram at Linda Brand Coach or Linda Brand Homes. You can also find me on Facebook. I would love to hear from you. Send me a message. Also, I'm happy to do a free discovery call if you're looking for a coach. I would love that. Also, if you could leave a rating and review, I would love that. It would help me so much to grow this audience and help as many people as I can. Have a beautiful, blessed rest of your day and live empowered. Thank you.